from last week's session. So this session is going to be recorded. We'll go ahead and start. I don't need to introduce Dr. Osas again. I think for some of us that were not here last week, KG sort of did a recap for us with regards to what we learned last week. But if Dr. Sastu might just want to run us briefly through that as we go ahead with today's session. Thank you so much, everyone, once again. Sit back, relax, take away distractions from you. Just try and focus and be present. I mean, it's really important for us to be present. We're in an age where you're chatting, you're doing so many other things, but this is about you and giving yourself that time that you require. So please stay focused, stay present, and let's enjoy the ride. Thank you, Dr. Sass. Over to you, sir.
All right, thank you once again, HR gems, the gems of the gems of the gems. We need to create a slang that we sound like Aluta, Continua, Victoria, etc. What do you think, Lara? Oh, your mic is off. You're mute.
Yeah, I said we call ourselves Gem Stars. Maybe we can say Gem Stars the Impactor or something. I mean, we have Toba in the house who's very creative with stickers. Toba can help us with the mantra or something.
Come up something that can ginger.
Yes, so Toba, we know you have that swag. So we look forward to hearing something from you soon.
Just don't make it Aluta Continua. All right, thank you everyone for having me once again. And once again, so sorry. It's been a hectic day. Unfortunately, my last weekend may head into this time, so I just quickly wrap it up to join here. So apology for joining late. So we continue from where we stopped. Today we'll be looking more into the application, but let's just quickly recap. Thank you, Lara. Thank you, KG, for doing the recap. Like I gathered. We dealt with what personality is all about, where personality came from. We talked about the word persona, in Latin root word for personality, which means mask, theatrical mask that people used to project a different character for. So then we talked about the role of the connection between personality, IQ, and EI, and the role of EI in personality. Then we move further to talk about MBTI personality and the 4 components of determining the personality type. And we talk about each of us, we find ourselves in the mix of, for each of these 4 categories, we have the extrovert and introvert. For the environmental interaction, that is how we interact, how we pay attention to the environment to pick information. This is the first component of our personality. By the way, personality means, I hope we remember, that's a characteristic pattern of how we think, feel, and behave in a particular situation to give us a unique nature, or to give us a unique identity or a uniqueness. And there are 4 components to this characteristic pattern. The environmental interaction or attention, how we pay attention to the environment to pick information from it. And you are either more of extrovert or more of introvert, but you are a mix of the two. Then we have the second category, how we essentially mental energy, how we actually pick on this information to process it in our head, how we reflect on this information we pick on the environment and process it. And we're either more of intuitive or more of a sensor, but we're a mix of both, but you're more of one. Then we have the third component, which is essentially about decision making. And we talk about it being, after processing the information, there's a way you make decision on the information. You're processing your head. You're a mix of thinker and a feeler, but you're more of one. Then the last category is the tactical approach. After your decision, there's a way you approach your environment, your workplace, your family, your children, your friends, with the decision you have made. There's a way you approach it to execute it. There's a way you plan it to execute it. You're a mix of judger and perceiver, but you are more of one. All right? On that note, I want to believe, anyway, you all have done your personality type and you have it already. And we look into the strengths and shortcomings of each personality type. And people related to what they had, and we discovered that it's close to 100% accurate for most people. And I remember I mentioned this. There's always a different personality type. Doesn't mean you don't have a secondary or tertiary personality type. Then I emphasized repeatedly in last session that Your strength in a particular situation can become a weakness in another situation. Your strength in a particular situation can become a weakness in another dynamic of another situation. So you are too rigid in life, your level of influence will be low. If you are too rigid in life, your level of influence will be low. People buy people. And the best way to correct people is to first connect with them. That's why we say connect before you correct. So you're a leader, you're a manager, you're a parent, you're a supervisor, you're a business owner, you want to be able to influence, you want to increase your influence quotient, you got to master flexibility. So you cannot afford to say, this is who I am. People should accept me for who I am. You say, can you accept yourself for who you are? You are too rigid. So yes, it's a strength for you when it comes to being a wife or being a husband. But in the workplace as a manager, it may be a weakness. Then when you are related as a manager or as a team lead, it may be a strength. But when you want to sell to a customer, if the customer is an INFP and you are an ESTJ, you use the programming of an ESTJ to sell to him, foul, penalty, not throwing. You are Chinese to a Yoruba person, it will not connect. And buying essentially is emotional more than logical. That's why flexibility is key. And that's why the hallmark of this self-awareness or self-auditing is to realize your strengths and your shortcomings in order to improve yourself. But ultimate goal is flexibility so that you can become who you are meant to become when the need prevails on you for it. I always like to permit me to quote from the scripture. Paul said, I became to the Romans. I acted like Romans to connect with the Romans. All right. Look at the leaders in your life or leaders in the organizations you work. The best of leaders in influencing people, in getting the best out of people, in driving employee engagement or driving the motivation of staff. The kind of leaders that employees or team members will go to war for, they're highly flexible, and therefore their influence quotient is high. All right, and lastly, I think, if I'm not wrong, I think the questions that were asked brought this discussion also. So we quickly looked at, I think I responded to, okay, energy drivers. What motivates each personality type? And remember the energy colors, the yellow, the red, the green, and the blue. 4 personality, the 16 personality types are divided into 4 in terms of energy drive. So each of the 4 groups has their own unique color: the yellow, the blue, the green, and the red. And each of them has what drives them, what motivates them. You cannot motivate everybody the same way as a teammate. You cannot motivate or try to influence a change in all your children the same way. You got to understand them. And that's why empathy is essentially about seeking to understand others' perspectives and feelings in relating with them, not relating with them from your own understanding of feelings. So on this note, can I share my slide? Please permit me to share my slide, okay? Give me 20 seconds. Let me just quickly share my slide.
Okay.
All right, while we're sharing our slide, is there anybody that has a question that is from the last session quickly? Maybe 1 or 2 that can drive or introduce us to this discussion. I thought we'll be able to still look at some more personality types and their strengths and weaknesses, because we did only 6 or 7 of individuals last session, but I'm not sure time will permit. Time is so far. But any question that is still hanging from last session, please start and share my slide. Or anybody that wants to
I have a question.
Share their experience so far from their learning.
Okay, I have a question though, Doctor.
Okay, please.
Yeah,
yes,
so with regards to managing toxic bosses in quotes, because a lot of times I get the question, how do I manage my boss? I mean, I'm self-aware, I know myself, and my boss might not be self-aware, and the way my boss is leading me is affecting my work, my productivity. So how do we use this tool to better manage upward?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, number one, there are many ways to respond to this question, but we just pick one or two. You've done NLP, Lara, so I will quote from NLP so that you can relate with it. That's neuro-linguistic programming for those that don't know what it is. The linguistic programming in literal translation is just about the language of the human mind and how it programs behavior. So in NLP, one of the things we train or teach at the early part of the training in NLP is what we call presupposition. That is assumptions that are okay to accept as the truth in order to be able to connect with people or influence people. Assumptions, the assumptions quite all right, but it's okay to accept them as the truth in order to be able to connect with people to influence them. All right. And one of the presuppositions of about 22 presuppositions, one of them is this: there is no unresourceful person. There are only unresourceful state of mind. There is no unresourceful person. There are only unresourceful state of mind. Then the second presupposition that we put into this is this: there is no rigid receiver of information. They are only inflexible communicator. This person cannot change. Yes, it can be easy. It's a very easy way to say and just push away the responsibility for us. And it's possible that you have even tried your best, and it's a very okay way to just put it on the table that you have done your best, so let me just leave it as it is. It's no longer my fault. But the truth is this: you may get someone else that will relate with that boss and be able to get him to see from another perspective and start working towards changing. Why? Because you are speaking Chinese to an Indian or Igbo to a South African. You are not communicating. You are communicating in your own style, in your own language. You are not communicating in the language of that boss. So every boss has their communication style. Let me give you a classical example. There's something we call sensory code. There's something we call sensory code that determines how people decide on how to communicate, how they give communication or they receive communication. So there are some people that are dominantly visual. There are some people that are dominantly auditory, auditory, digital, and non kinesthetic. Dominantly visual means that people that pick more information from what you are saying, from what you are presenting to them or communicating with them in form of pictures, mainly in the images that you are presenting to them. Dominantly, these are the kind of people that the way you package a gift matters to them. But I bought this thing with a whole lot of money, but you just bought the gift, you didn't wrap it, you didn't nothing. The person is dominantly visual, is more moved by what he's seeing. People that are dominantly kinesthetic, no matter how you package it, no matter how you are telling them to change or to do this thing, you must be involved in it with them so that they experience it before it can be represented to their head. Because sensory code essentially means representational system. Life presents something to them, you present something to them, but they have to represent it after it has passed through mental filters in their head. So that's another way you have to explore. Then again, another way you have to explore is some people are dealing with mental health issues. There are some mental health issues, they don't stop people from delivering on their job. One of the things at the Pastor and Minister Conference that I just finished speaking, that I have to address. The fact that somebody is speaking in tongues or doing miracles or healing does not mean it's not dealing with mental health. There are CEOs that have narcissistic personality disorder, schizoid personality disorder. It doesn't stop their intelligence. The only thing is that their relationability may be K-leg. And how it will manifest in their business is that their turnover rate is high because their attrition rate is high. People are just living and they don't mind spending money to hire new sets. But it doesn't disturb his own particular work, his intelligence. So if someone has narcissistic personality disorder, it's going to be difficult for you to be able to give them feedback or expect them to change, because they have a very recalcitrant fear for any sense of losing control. They're losing control over their respect or losing control over all knowing. They have been regarded as very brilliant. So it's a multifactorial dimension to it. It's about identifying what works for that person. But in all, you can only do your best. You cannot change anybody. You can only influence. So identify, do your best, learn to communicate in their own language, not in your own language. But at the end of everything, it's still their responsibility to change. And if they don't change, you got to accept whatever you cannot control. That's the last thing I would say. You got to accept whatever you cannot control. Focusing on what you cannot control is setting yourself up for frustration. So in that work, there's always a way. Any challenge that you are dealing with, you are expressing that challenge because there's a capacity in you that can handle it. That's what the principle in energy psychology. When you are dealing with a challenge in life, just know that that challenge is permitted in your life because there's a capacity in you that can handle it. So sometimes we are hell-bent or fixated on a particular path, a particular style or plan to resolving an issue, whereas there might be options that we need to explore. Being stuck is not just about being bereft of options. I hope I answered that question, Lara.
Yes, you did. Thank you so much.
All right. So on that note, let's quickly see some applications of personality. Please let me quickly crave your indulgence to go this route. We're not going to go through all these strengths and shortcomings again. So while we are looking at applications of personality in order to make it practical and experiential, based on what we call energy activity, in order to give it a balanced approach, I mean, just one or two of you connect with you through energy and be able to help you analyze how your personality is affecting your parenting, your relationship, your leadership style, and even some blocks in your life through the energy I'm picking from you and combine with your personality.